brought to you by
The ones who dream are the ones who own the future. What's your next dream? Let's create it together.
GNL
Yes.
Zamba.
How you doing, man?
How are you, brother? How are you?
I'm good.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
It's been 10 years.
It's always amazing to see you, and you look so good.
You look good too, man. You have a bit more bling than me, but welcome to the Cedric Live Show.
Thank you.
Coming. Have a seat.
Thank you.
GNL.
Yes.
Where have you been, man? I only see you on Instagram.
I've been all around the world and back, and sometimes I exist online as well.
Yeah, I see you. And you can do things on Instagram, like you can make many of those squares join. How do you do that?
So there's this app called Grid.
Grid.
G-R-I.
Oh, grid.
Like a grid,
Yeah, so that's how you do it.
That's how I do it. The secret is out now.
I'm going to go and try and look for it today.
Yeah.
Make sure that I can get it.
Yeah.
Welcome home.
Man, thank you. It really, really feels good to be home.
It's always nice to be
It's
home.
always
East, west,
nice to be home.
home's best.
Home is best, always. The food, I missed my pineapples. I'm a pineapple person. And the pineapples in Los Angeles are not, they can't compare.
Yeah.
I personally feel we have the best pineapples in the world. Pineapples and avocado.
The best food, generally speaking.
Food is kind of debatable, and I know it might hurt a few people when we say it like that, but food is kind of debatable. I think we have some sentiments. Improving.
How are we going to improve it? It grows, it's organic.
On that, we are fine.
Yeah.
Everything organic, on the organic end, we are winning. But I was challenging friends the other time in a conversation, and I was asking them, this Ugandan cuisine, don't you think it's time we did an update? Or thought more creatively on how to approach our food?
But when you left to go to, you're in LA, right?
Yes.
When you left to go to LA, we didn't have Rolex.
Oh damn, we invented the Rolex.
Eddie, listen.
Bro, we invented the Rolex. I think I was among the team that popularized the Rolex. I'm not that old, but if any history of the Rolex is to be told out there, there was a gentleman called Sula, and then there was another one. I forget his name, but he's the one who invented the Titanic.
The Titanic?
Yes.
What's the Titanic? Is that a type of food?
So the Titanic is a type of Rolex, but this one is
magnified.
It has a chap. It has the sausage. So before people began like doing this, I see someone starting a whole business of chains and franchises of the Rolex. That was the original guy who gave us the Titanic, because the Titanic had so many things in it that you needed toothpicks to hold it together, and it looked really long. So it was 6 chapatis. So it was like an art of its own.
You know, we have to be careful on this show.
Yes.
Because very quickly it might look like a cooking show.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful. Because I came to speak about the legend.
Yes.
And Insimbi, of course.
Yes.
So we'll get to the show, and then we'll get into more detail.
Sirabanga mulungi nga ggwe ompeweza ng'empewo y'okumakya mawuggwe gwatonyesa enkuba gwagimusa ebitooke gwe bajjajja gwe banyumyangako okuva eng'oggwe ng'osooba oyita mu kyaggwe paka karagwe andelabo.
Welcome back to the Cedric Live Show. My guest today is GNL Zamba. But Nelson Mandela once said, if you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. But if you talk to him in a language in his language, it goes to his heart.
Oh damn, that's deep.
Isn't that deep?
That's really, really deep.
GNL has mastered the art of doing both, choosing the path less traveled and doing hip-hop predominantly in Luganda.
Yes.
Which, of course, for those of you who don't know, is the most spoken language in the Republic of Uganda. GNL Zamba has won multiple awards throughout his career, and also recently won the 2020 Diaspora Artist of the Year Award at the MTN Uganda Hip Hop Awards. MTN, thank you very much for sponsoring this show. They sponsor this show. This is the Cedric Live Show. My name is Cedric, and my guest is GNL Zamba. Welcome to the show, bro.
Thank you very much, Sevo. Anialuleta.
I remember the song.
Oh yes, oh yes. Yeah.
But my favorite one is Chikankane.
Everybody loves Chikankane.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you know, I heard that song when I was living abroad.
Yeah.
And I was sitting, somebody gave me at the time, CD, CD, and I put it in the car. And he's like, who is this?
Yeah.
I said, this is GNL.
Yes.
So man, you've been in the industry for a number of years, but let's go back to the beginning, you know.
Yeah.
Tell me where you grew up. Of course, they've written it here. You know, where did you grow up? How did it all start, you know? Are you a Kampala boy? Are you from outside of Kampala? Where are you from?
Outside countries. I'm joking.
That's recently.
So, yeah, so here's the thing. When you talk about growth, I've seen myself grow through so many things.
Yeah.
But biologically, I was born in Uganda to an electrician and a civil servant.
Yes.
And in that household was mainly Kawempe. The place that I remember the most is Kawempe.
Yes.
And Kawempe was a ghetto. Now that I think about my childhood, I remember the horrors that were around where I grew up. And it wasn't an easy place to live in because most of the people they were looking for on the news or the most horrible stories you used to hear used to come from my neighborhood.
Yes.
And yeah, so that's the kind of environment that I grew around from. You would hear when there's domestic violence, the neighbor would be so close to your fence, you could hear it. There was a piggery behind our house, and one side had a Musawo Muganda, a traditional healer,
a witch doctor
of sorts. Yes. And one of the things I remember which was implanted in my brain that I keep on going back to was seeing a madman who had been tied up like a goat because they did not want him running away, and he was in a cassava garden which was right adjacent to our house, and I was walking to school. And the look in his eyes was of terror. He was afraid. Now that I think about it, he was going through a mental health crisis and he was being tortured because people did not know how to deal with these problems.
Yes.
So that's where I come from. I don't want to paint a grim picture of Kawempe. Yes. There's so many happy stories that come from that dark cloud that I just painted. There are so many silver linings there.
GNL came from there.
GNL comes from Kawempe.
Yeah, it's not a bad story.
Chameleon comes from Kawempe.
Yes.
Spice Diana, Fig Maker was my neighbor.
Yes.
Shiba. So Kawempe, there's something in the water.
Yes.
When it comes to the artists that are blessing our radio stations and TV stations now.
Yeah, I mean, tell me, you know, growing up, you know, what kind of kid were you, man? Were you a musical child? Were you a quiet child? Were you what kind of kid were you? Were you naughty? Were you?
Yes, I was very naughty. I was very naughty because I think from a very early childhood I decided things that made me happy and things that did not make me happy.
Yes.
And often when I was quiet, but when somebody got into my space,
yes,
I would fight with my sisters over the remote because I wanted my favorite TV shows. I would fight with people switching off my radio because I was playing it at a high volume. So I gave people their space and I also wanted them to give me my space. But you know, when you're living in a very confined space, that's not usually a thing. You're all fighting for limited resources.
Yeah.
The TV is only one. The radio, some people want to sleep. That's when you want to play Nas. You know, like there's always, there was always that. But it was a very happy childhood, I think, I would like to say. Stubborn only when I was defending things that made me happy as a person.
Space.
Yes.
So you're just a normal little boy trying to get his own space and create this thing. So in school, my team, they told me that you used to write even in school and debate. Mm-hmm. Is that true?
Yes, that's very true. So actually, I think forming the identity that I have as GNL started in a school called Chira College Butiki. Because in Kawempe, my parents did so much to protect me from the world around me that playing around with neighborhood kids was even forbidden. So my life was the TV, it was the radio. That's the life that I know.
School.
And school, yeah. But school was mainly, so because I had my aunties who were teachers, sometimes I would just stay home and learn from there.
Yes.
And, but it was the high school when I went to Chira College Butiki. And I began interacting with people from different parts of Uganda that I formed the idea of GNL and who is GNL, the identity, the love for storytelling. It's basically what made me a storyteller.
Yeah.
So
were you GNL, when did you come up, what does GNL mean first of all? Because your name is Ernest Nsimbi.
Yes, yes.
What does GNL mean? What does it stand for?
So GNL is basically a philosophy. It's a personal philosophy, and if I'm to preach the gospel out there, everybody can attain this. And I'll explain it this way. Maslow draws a pyramid, and that
hierarchy of needs.
The hierarchy of needs. And what's on the top there?
Self-actualization.
Self-actualization. So at the highest level of self-expression, you achieve greatness of no limit. So
greatness of no limit.
Greatness of no limit. That's GNL.
You guys have some deep names.
Yes, it's really, really deep. And it's really deep because to me, it's the fundamentals of expressing yourself and discovering who you are. And through that, you discover you're much closer to the planets, God out there, the idea of God out there, the creative energy. It's what Mohammed, Jesus, and the Hindus are all trying to preach.
Right.
It's that idea that when you're in love with yourself and express yourself fully, you have no space in your heart for hatred. We're all striving to be on top of that pyramid where we self-actualize, where we have introspect in order to affect change and create a better world.
Jeez, man, you nearly made me cry. Anyway, self-actualization. GNL, great.
At the highest level of self-expression,
great no limits.
You achieve greatness of no limits.
Greatness of no limits.
Yes.
That's actually the second one. You know who was on here a while ago? It was Big Trill. And
yes.
for a long time, I didn't, and he came out of Baboon Forest too, didn't he?
Yes, yes he did.
So Big Trill, I asked him, you know, I just asked him, what does it mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I loved it. He said, he was born into greatness.
To become a legend.
To rise into a legend.
To rise into a legend.
And I thought to myself,
yeah,
you know, to come up with that when you're so young means that, you know, you're probably destined for that greatness that we're talking about.
Yes. Or you're probably inspired by someone.
And then the second part, Zamba.
Yes.
Where does that come from?
Oh, so Zamba is really a deep story.
Because you have GNL,
yes.
then you have Zamba.
Yes, so Zamba is basically, it's a Congolese name.
Yes.
And it means rainmaker.
Rainmaker.
It's basically a forest. Zamba is a forest. It means forest.
Yes.
But to local people and indigenous Africans,
yes.
it means the rainmaker. Rain comes from the forest.
Yes.
So I really value in the indigenous wisdom because I believe it can inform where we are. It's important for us as Africans to always keep that as a part of ourselves. So even even with all my bling, I make sure I represent myself as an African. Even in my music, I made sure that the hip hop was not the hip hop of New York, but that I translated that hip hop to an African, to how we Africans have always done it.
You contextualized it.
Yes, around the fireplace. KOYIKOYI was the title of my very first album. So it has my identity, my language, and I also encourage the other people we preach the gospel of Lugaflow so that we could take pride in who we are and our languages.
You set the stage for a lot of guys who are doing very well today.
Yeah.
Which artists inspired you when you were growing up?
I was inspired by so many artists. My art is also, even if hip-hop is classified as hip-hop, but it's also very eclectic in a way.
Yes.
But I should say that one of the artists that really changed my life was Nas.
Nas.
Yes, because Nas was so descriptive and he painted pictures with words. And I myself also began writing, and in my writing I would hear like words had certain sounds to them. Yeah. And they would paint colors to me. And I think exploring every lyric that Nas ever wrote, I discovered who I was and my storytelling as well. Fantastic. Yeah.
So now we're going to go to commercial. We'll be right back here with GNL Zamba, talking about music, talking about his career, talking about his academics. We'll be right back. This show is brought to you by MTN, hosted at the wonderful Speak Apartments. This is the Cedric Live Show. Stay tuned.
During this pandemic, every little contribution helps. Help those most affected by the effects of coronavirus. You can donate to the Red Cross using MTN Momo Pay. Simply dial *165*3#. Then enter the code 191919 and follow the prompts. Remember, using MTN Momo Pay is free of charge. Let's fight corona together. This is an initiative of the Uganda Red Cross Society, supported by
Everywhere You Go, MTN.
Speak Apartments offers you 5-star of the city into the lavish and spacious living room. Those who appreciate the finer things in life. Speak Apartments is also offering and relax defines fine living. Also on the premises is East Africa's largest gym, children's play area, ample parking, Havana restaurant and bar has you covered with a number of cuisines from around the world. If it's fine dining you love, Speak Apartments defines the fun. Located at the edge of Wampeo Avenue, Speak Apartments is your luxury home in the heart of Kampala City.
Welcome back to the Cedric Live Show, brought to you by MTN and hosted at the wonderful Speak Apartments on Wampeo Avenue. My guest today is GNL Zamba, one of Uganda's leading artists, musicians, been in the game a long time, the king of Lugaflow, the CEO of Baboon Forest, and I guess the accolades are still coming. GNL.
Yeah.
So we're talking, man, and you know, one of the things I read in your profile is that you did environmental science.
Yes.
At Makerere?
Makerere University.
Makerere University.
Mitchell, yeah?
Mitchell?
Yes,
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
So, how do you go from, because you know you figured out this what you wanted to do.
Yes.
Musically.
Yes.
So how did you end up doing environmental science?
So I didn't really know that I was going to become a musician before, because most of our parents are raised in a system where the child doesn't have to be a musician, the badongo are not respected, you have to be a doctor, you have to be this, you have to be that.
MDD.
Yes, so I made a pact with my dad that I would bring him his degree.
Yes.
I told him,
like most of us.
I'm going to come and bring you your degree. But I think my path is going to become, I'm going to become a musician.
Yes.
And yes, when we made that pact, I made sure that I honored it. And I was offered a job because I was one of the best students actually in Makerere in my year.
Yes.
So because the course needed, it was a much needed service to the country, I was offered a job in Mubende. And I remember refusing the job. I said, I'm not going to go to a place where mosquitoes have teeth. My dad reminds me of that all the time.
Yeah.
So I refused to go do that job because I really wanted to do hip-hop music.
Yes.
And I believed that I'd found my rhythm. But I had to first finish environmental law and environmental science and do all these other courses. Yes. I think also that ties into who I am as a human being. I think the universe sets us on paths where we don't know where we're going to end up, but it usually ties into your whole story.
Yes.
When I was telling you about the name Zamba and being a rainmaker, that later became, GNL, the legend of Zamba, means greatness of no limit, the legend of Zamba. And we said Zamba is the forest, it's the rainmaker. Ties into my whole passion now for conservation, conserving trees, and the love for baboons and monkeys. Ties into that. It made me understand and appreciate nature more. And tying that into my music, where we're talking about identity and preserving our culture, is basically now become my whole cause and mission statement. That even with the music, it's going to become, the music and the art, it's a vehicle to make all these other things happen, to further these causes.
So does this actually, you know, you talk about environmental science, you talk about, you know, you know, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, self-actualization, how you came up with your name. But it must have been quite difficult to fit that into not just your genre of music, but to fit it into the language of Luganda.
Yes.
Because there are many things which you can't express in Luganda
Yeah.
that maybe are in English.
Yeah.
But you know, you have rich vocabulary in Luganda.
Yes.
Even when I listen to your music, I have to go and check sometimes
Yes.
to understand what you just said.
Yeah.
But you use a lot of this. So how did you manage to merge Luganda and then ultimately create Lugaflow?
Yes. So the beauty of this whole thing, and I was just having a conversation with a friend about this, is I think my unique gift is to always look at difficult situations and find a way out. Because I always find myself in difficult situations where nobody is saying yes, and we find a way of getting to the yes, or those people coming to us in the end. So in that regard, English is a very poor language. Luganda is a very, very rich language that even when you're looking for the translation, it loses the warmth, it loses the depth and some of the wit. Lost in translation, you find that you lose about 60% of the beauty of the word or the statement when you translate it to English. So in hip hop, I figured that so many of the rappers who were rapping in English, who I was a big fan of, they were rapping to their high school friends and cliques of people that had gone to school before. And whenever we used to do the shows, our shows were at DV8, they were at Sabrina's, but the genres like Shidandalia and all these other people were sinking through.
Yes.
And the way to that was to discover what hip hop was. Yes. And translate it into the local terms. So what's hip hop to us if it's not, if we're to take away it comes from New York, they wear baggy jeans and wear bling and then say all these are vulgar words or things that we don't understand that are too complex, those concepts.
It's not our thing, you know.
That's what most people think. But then I found that the solution to people understanding hip hop was very, first of all, the quote that you said, the Mandela quote. Speak it in their language. First of all, you've taken away 80% of the problems. And then remind them of their own history. Because our own history is hip hop in itself, according to me, and I'll explain. When they say graffiti, Africans invented paintings in walls.
Yes.
So that's the first art. And then we went to hieroglyphs at a certain point. This is all storytelling. And to me that's one aspect of hip hop. When you say breakdancing, the Africans invented dance because we were here first. Around the fireplace they danced and they communed and told stories, even through the art of dancing.
Yes.
You have that too. So what's the other aspect of hip hop? You go to storytelling, abatontomi. You have okwivuga. Yes. You have ishazi. In Uganda, in choto. These are not strange concepts. So when I figured that out, it's a very complex concept when you're looking at it from a Western angle. But when you localize it and give it, and remember our history of where we come from as a people, it becomes very, very simple.
Yeah.
That's why my very first album is called Riddles of Life, KOYIKOYI. Starts with KOYIKOYI, and everybody says India.
Let's fight coronavirus together. Coronavirus is spread through sneezing, coughing, and contact with contaminated surfaces. To avoid the disease, wash your hands with soap regularly and don't spit in public. Avoid crowds and stay home if you have flu. Protect yourself and your loved ones. Follow the guidelines on coronavirus from Ministry of Health. Please avoid sharing unconfirmed information. Call the Ministry of Health on 919 toll-free for assistance. This message is from Ministry of Health and supported by
Everywhere You Go, MTN.
kirya awulira bwe kirya banzalira mu ghetto awatali mutto GNL Zamba ninga omwana Yesu Kristo GNL ze gye nava amana tebambala ngatto nkuba bwe tonnya okuvaayo beera weetaaga lyato okubeera wano nammwenze ekyali kirooto nawandikanga remuzi zange mwana ku tadooba kyali wange pitek naŋŋamba nti maani toloba luli walimu olifuna rapidi kyali wange kiriba kati raba yenzaali ku MTV nejama agenda byenkola ku kazindaalo bakyali babitenda nebedde ku nsonga kati ninga Andrew Mwenda manyi gye nva ate era manyi gye ŋŋenda zikira bwe baŋŋambanga nti no GNL tomalaako naye kati malako bakyali nzannya kyenda emiziki gye nkuba kati mugiwulirira mu byenda manyi gye nva ate era manyi gye ŋŋenda koyi koyi.
Welcome back to the Cedric Live Show, proudly sponsored by MTN and hosted at the wonderful Speak Apartments on Wampo Avenue. I'm here with the legendary GNL Zamba, and we're joined by Miriam, who is the other half of the Insimbi duo, which is a cross-cultural group.
Yes.
Miriam, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And welcome to Uganda.
Great to be back, yeah.
You know, I saw you perform many years ago.
Yes.
At an event. Yeah. My event, actually.
Yes.
Kwivuga.
Yes.
And, you know, I remember GNL performing as well.
Yes.
And it's good to hear that you guys have gone on to create the Insimbi group. So, Miriam, what is Insimbi? What is the Insimbi do? I know it's his name that he probably shares with you now.
Yeah.
But that's a detail.
Yeah.
Yes. But what is the Insimbi do all about? What do you guys do?
So we are both inspired by culture and identity. So that's sort of what Nsimbi stands for. And with our music, what we try to do is look at ancient wisdom from ancestors, and oftentimes we'll focus on East African wisdom. But looking at how that is so universal, and try and see what we can take from those lessons and use today in society and create art with that.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way.
Yeah. So do you create music, or do you, is it more of just an expression? You know, you just sort of what is it?
I would say it's based on music.
Yes.
But expands from there.
Yes.
Yeah. It's basically multimedia. If you ask me what Nsimbi is in our culture, African culture, it's something which is of the sea and something which is of the land. So it's that cowrie shell, Jabaitoba poker shell, and it was the first currency in the world. So when we were looking for a name that could bring all of us together as humanity, you find that seed is everywhere, on every coast of the world. You're going to find it among the Inca people, the Asian culture in South America. You find it among the Native Americans. And the Native Americans also decorate with that seed. And the Chinese have always used it as a form of exchange currency. It's a very central seed, even in our Buganda culture and African culture. So when we're looking for something that unites humanity and shares world culture and brings all people together, then Nsimbi, which also happens to be my grandfather's name, came to be a very perfect title. It made a lot of sense.
Use the symbol.
So you didn't have to look very far for a name. It's your name anyway.
Yeah.
It was just
like I said, look for the wisdom all around us, and it's our identity that has the answers for everything.
And you two are now married.
We made it official as a duo, then we made it official.
So the Nsimbi name is yours forever.
Yeah.
So that's it. So now he has a boss. He can't do anything about it. Are you from? Where are you from? You're from California?
I'm actually from the Boston area.
Okay.
Originally, yeah.
So how do you guys end up in California?
We like warm weather.
The sun.
Yeah, of course, you can't take this man and put him in the winter. His dreads will fall off.
I'm just as bad, actually. So, yeah, and we, we're artists and want to be in a creative epicenter.
So tell me, what do you do with this knowledge? Because both of you are very knowledgeable. I'm actually surprised about GNL. He's told me some things, and by the way, we have to sit down over. What do you drink?
Cabernet Sauvignon.
Okay, very good. We're in the same page. So we have to sit down over a coffee and a glass of wine and discuss this in a bit more detail. But what do you do with all this knowledge? There's a lot of stuff you're talking about here, ethnicity and all these different things. What do you do with this knowledge? I know you go and lecture. And
yes. I'll let her take this, but I was with her. She traveled with me to Chambogo, the last lecture that I had.
Yeah.
I think the best thing that we would do with the knowledge, the best thing to do is share it.
Yes.
And help other young people who would like to see a pathway. Use what we have learned to better the society, better their lives, create entrepreneurship opportunities. That's what we're passionate about.
Yeah, so that's, again, so Insimbi is music, art, education, community. So we're building in a lot of lanes because we're passionate about all those things.
Okay. Yeah. How do people respond to these things? Don't they get a bit surprised that the two of you are doing this? When you speak to them as a duo, isn't there a bit of a shock factor?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, and I mean, I think particularly we'll talk about the role of the negative role of colonialism and all these things, and he'll be talking, they'll be looking at me, and I'm just like, yeah. But I think that's what's important, because for us, it's, and why we're drawn to each other is we love to have dialogue, open dialogue, and to encourage other people to have dialogue about searching about who you are as a person, and how that interplays with society, and how we can all grow individually and together, and that's what excites us. Whatever you think, I mean, yes, that's what brings us joy. So,
well, I hope that you guys now that you're on your way back to Uganda, after you've done a few gigs, and I assume you're coming back together. He's not going to come and leave you in America. No, he's going to come back with you. Yeah. That you'll be able to, speak with us and with the youngsters, and teach us some of these things that you've, exposure is a wonderful thing.
Yes.
One of the best teachers is experiences.
Yes.
And as they say, we're sort of a sum total of our experiences and the people we meet.
Yes.
Is that true?
That's very true. 100%, 1,000%.
Yes.
The elder people say. But the Nsimbi mantra, as our family mantra, is explore, experience, expand.
Yes.
Always, like in everything that we do. Those are our 3 E's. We explore, experience, expand. And most of the solutions for our societies are in dialogue and sharing knowledge. Right. And like we said, introspect. So you can begin understanding what the other person's problem is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Of course, you guys have produced music together. You produced an album, or what have you done? What have you done with your music?
Yeah. So we have our first album. It's here. Insimbi, self-titled.
Yeah.
We thought that was enough information for people to absorb.
Let's have a look.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Our first album is based on Swahili proverbs and Baganda folklore. And it uses only traditional instruments. And we're already working on a couple other projects right now.
It's a good thing that he mentioned, you mentioned, somewhere you said infinity, like you're together, you have a boss forever, and that's very true. Because I'm passionate about the project. Next project that we're working on right now is called Infinity, with the Nsimbi infinity symbol.
Okay.
And to me it represents the universe in its infinity.
Can you hold that thought right there, and we'll go to commercial, we'll be right back. This show is brought to you by MTN, hosted at the wonderful Speak Apartments on Kawempe Avenue. We'll be right back, stay tuned.
Let's fight coronavirus together. Coronavirus is spread through sneezing, coughing, and contact with contaminated surfaces. To avoid the disease, wash your hands with soap regularly and don't spit in public. Avoid crowds and stay home if you have flu. Protect yourself and your loved ones. Follow the guidelines on coronavirus from Ministry of Health. Please avoid sharing unconfirmed information. Call the Ministry of Health on 919 toll-free for assistance. This message is from Ministry of Health and supported by
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Welcome back to the Cedric Live Show, proudly brought to you by MTN, hosted at the wonderful Speak Apartments on Kawempe Avenue. I'm still here with my guests, of course, Miriam Nsimbi,
Yes.
of course, of the Insimbi duo, and the man himself, GNL Zamba. Thank you, my brother, for coming on the show again, and Miriam, thank you for being here. Now, before we went to break, we were speaking about your next project, which is Infinity Insimbi?
Nsimbi Infinity.
Nsimbi Infinity.
Nsimbi Infinity. We just drew that infinity symbol on it.
Right.
And the idea of things living on forever has fascinated the Egyptians for the longest, that they built pyramids, put sarcophaguses in them and all sorts of things. But for us, the idea of infinity is as pure as the idea of love. Love for a mother to a child, and love for generations, leaving something for other generations. So in that very same spirit, we'd like to leave something special behind.
Yes.
And it's that music that we want to create, it's that legacy that we want to create. And even in the conservation story, or the conservation tale, we as this generation need to ask ourselves those questions. What are we leaving for our younger brothers in Uganda, in Africa, with the challenges that are coming? What's our plan for the infinity?
Right.
Love should be infinite. Caring for others should be infinite.
That's an album, right?
Yes.
No,
this is an EP. This is an EP. We are working on the album, but this is the EP. The EP will come before.
Right. So tell me, guys, you know, this whole thing, I know, of course, you're the founder of Baboon Forest.
BFE, Muchizimbe, Uganda yafenemiri Rwanda, terialo later.
GNL is back. So GNL, you're the founder of Baboon Forest.
Yes.
And now you have Insimbi, the duo. So you guys are actually entrepreneurs. You make a living out of this. How's that going?
We actually love it. I couldn't have asked for better task because Baboon Forest was created to actually bring people together as a collective. It began as a collective before it became an independent label. And from that, I was able to find talents like Munji, like Big Trio. We worked with Nava briefly. We worked with Keko briefly, and so many other people, Jora MC Nemesis.
Yes.
So it's a system that now, when I come back to Uganda after 4 years, I find people producing shows in Uganda, managing the biggest artists, Big Trio having the biggest song probably in Africa right now.
Yes.
And it creates this feeling of we as bigger brothers should also give a hand or share our spotlight with others. It's only right. And with Nsimbi, I'm being given now the opportunity to work with my partner to make sure that our cross-culturalism is represented, that there's a cross-cultural exchange that's happening.
Yes.
For the better human story with her Jewish background and my African background, we can fuse those stories together to show an example to the world, or to share East African culture, East African art, and also with a message of love and creating a better society.
Yeah.
We are fascinated with that.
Yeah,
it's the best job ever.
Yeah, we live in a globalized society, so what is your contribution going to be? What's your identity within that society? How do we hold our culture, but also connect with each other? Those are the things.
Diversity without uniformity. Isn't that what you're saying? Unity without uniformity.
Now, I have a question, GNL, and of course for you, Miriam, as well. You've been here long enough, so we consider you Uganda.
Yeah.
When I remember seeing you many years ago. The music industry in Uganda. One thing I've discussed this on the show with other artists, Nav, Trill, all of them, and even I was involved with music, at least from a management perspective and promotion perspective. Not as much as you two, but I dabbled a little bit with it. And one of the things I realized is that the ecosystem is pretty much non-existent. What I mean by that is that you take on an artist. Yes, you want to nurture your little brother, your little sister, whatever it may be. But where is the exit for the artist? Mm-hmm. How does the artist actually make a living? Because truth of the matter is, nobody is going to be, not every artist is going to be like GNL. Not every artist is going to have a big hit like trill.
Yes.
Most of them are going to be pretty round, pretty much, sort of middle of the range, sort of. They're going to get by. They're going to have good songs, but they'll never really, just like it is in the US. There are some who, of course, superstars, like, Jay-Z and Nas and Beyonce and whoever, Justin Bieber and Eminem. But the average artist in America will make some money. They'll live okay. They might get a small signing bonus from their label. And they'll live, and if they're careful, they can make a decent living as a producer, as a director, as you see some of them have broken away. Dre, he ended up doing beats, and beats made billions, whatever it may be. But what do we do in Uganda? How can we?
This is one of the things that I'm most passionate about, and it's one of my missions right now, because I believe I've learned. And as I've also seen what's missing, and hopefully working together with you also has the same experience.
That means you need to vote correctly if you want to work with me.
I did. There you go. There you go. This man right here. But you've always been a special friend, and we've had some of the best conversations ever.
Yes.
The solution for that is, first of all, when I look at this room where we are, I see art all over the place. And in my earlier meeting, before I came over for this interview, I was having the same conversation with an artist who is no longer being featured on these shows and is distraught. He's like Nkozentia. But the solution is you look at yourself as an artist and begin diversifying. The point is diversifying. Steve Jobs built...
Reinvent yourself.
There's so many ways to make money. Right now, it's, for me, my mind is just blowing up, because everything I'm looking at an idea, and how do I form a team behind this to make it happen?
Yes.
Same thing with art. The most profitable company in the world is based on music. Steve Jobs did not create anything out of that's so magnificent. He figured out a way to anchor a company of creating something that stored people's music. You have something precious as an artist.
Yes.
Now the thing is, how do artists begin diversifying and interfacing with all the industries in Uganda? Don't look at yourself, stage. I'll still be making money as an artist. I've been away for 4.5 years performing in the United States, but I'm making money even though I'm seated here. Probably I'm plugging somebody's drink. Probably I'm going to be starting an app where my music is needed. That lamp behind you, Cedric, was designed by an artist. That means the company out there looked for an artist to draw something, and the technology behind that made it happen. We artists are scientists. We are polymaths, basically. We can do anything. But when we keep our mind limited to, we're only going to wait for the promoter, maybe for me it's a pride thing, but I don't want to wait for a promoter for my living.
Yes.
That means, and this is basically what Baboon Forest was built at. We didn't wait for the call, but we went to the brands out here in Uganda and told them, look, these are the numbers we have. I want to do a country tour. And we convinced them because we had campaigns that were already designed working for us, and we showed them how their product was going to how we were doing them a favor, actually.
Right.
So with artists, the same way it's the same way that I'm going to encourage them. There are artists who work out. Are you designing a workout video? There's money in that. Help people reduce their stomachs in their 40s. There's money in that because you already have a name. How do you creatively sell other products besides you being on stage? And once we manage that, once we manage to diversify the things that we can do in Uganda, you're creating more roles for artists. Even a mid-level artist somewhere.
Yes.
Can sell a mukeka at an Nsimbi event. Nsimbi event is basically culture. It's a platform for cultural entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Baboon Forest is a platform for you to even bring in virtual reality, video gaming. Baboon Forest is the story. Once you begin figuring out the music industry and figuring out the story behind that, because music, the art and everything that you sell needs to have a story.
Yeah.
Once you figure out what the story is, you can sell anything. I can sell ice cube to an Eskimo after I tell them a story. Advertising, you always look for a story. So for artists, there is no box. So stop thinking about what box, think outside the box. There is no box. Greatness of no limit, there are no limitations. When you reach that level of self-expression, you're limitless. You're limitless. You just realize your power. Look at what you do best. Then express yourself through that. Whether you're a painter, color painting, they don't look at it kujigula. No, think outside the box. Sell business to business at least. And also the other thing which I'm also trying to do, which I think is a solution with what other artists should do, is in order for us to expand and make money and really make this ecosystem work for us, is we need to stop looking at this thing as we are running a crew. We need to attract the best brains. There are people out there who have history in marketing, who have the history in sales, and Bourbon Forest right now can pay as good as a salary as UBL, as good as a salary as MTN. Nsimbi is looking for those brains. We are looking for those brains out there. We don't care if you can sing or not. Can you sell our products? Can we bring our customers closer to us? Can we deliver the best service to other people? We need to look besides the circles that Tulye is a music, and we begin attracting the better brains. That means our art gets more visibility. Our country gets more recognized. We are telling a better story and solving problems for Uganda. That's where we are.
You know what? And that is the word of GNL Zamba. Right? So, first of all, you want to say anything to these guys, the viewers of this show? Do you want to say anything? Do you have any words of advice for the young ladies, for the young guys who are trying to get involved in music? Anything.
I think in the US, in Uganda, anywhere, now it's just about creative thinking, and I don't think there's the luxury of going into music or a lot of creative professions thinking you're just going to do one thing. That's, I don't think anyone's doing that anymore. So you go in, you say, yeah, this is my main passion, but what else am I good at? This is what he's saying. What other skills do I have? And how can I connect those skills? So you always have to be doing 3 to 5 things at once. So you're saying, okay, I'm doing my singing, I'm performing, but I'm working on all these other things at the same time, and I'm going to see where I'm succeeding. And I'm going to push different things. I'm going to see where I'm successful and what's working, and then I'm going to connect the different directions and continue to make different webs of all of my skill sets. And that's how you move forward. I mean, we all have to operate as small businesses. So you have to be a business person, not just an artist. And then eventually when you get to some success, you can hire people to fill some of those roles. But you have to go into it.
Yeah. Fun fact, I know we are running short of time. I'm sorry for cutting you off. But when passions... so California is the richest state in America.
Yeah.
What does California make is just technology interfacing with entertainment.
Correct.
An artist is a business. If they're taking out anything away from the Cedric show today, an artist is a business. Art is business.
You can't separate
So run
the
it
two.
as a business. It's not a crew for your friends to mess around. It's not time for you to enjoy and just drink and not enjoy, do all those things. It's a business at the end of the day.
Guys, thank you very much for coming on the show. Insimbi, Miriam, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Of course, the man himself, GNL. I wish you guys the best. You guys get out there, buy this album, Insimbi. Where is it available? At insimbimusic.com. You can check for information on their Facebook page, Insimbi, Instagram and Twitter at Insimbi Music. Guys, go get this, and we'll be waiting for Insimbi Infinity.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Guys,
Thank you for having us.
and thank you for watching the Cedric Live Show, brought to you by MTN and hosted at the wonderful Speak Apartments. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Tune in next week.
Was brought to you by
The ones who dream are the ones who own the future. What's your next dream? Let's create it together.